Peace, family. It's your brother Binaj Allah. Got a read for you today. Haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm be coming from a brother Noble Drew Ali, right? And the Holy Quran, or the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, known as the what? Circle 7. I'll share my screen with y'all, just to put up a visual so you ain't got to look at me the whole time. So it's real simple. um I'm going to get into relationship science. I'm always talking that black family structure. I'm always talking what? Polygyny, family building, right? And how the foundation of any nation state, how the foundation of anything and significance as far as politics, government, life period is concerned, right? Is the family unit, right? So I'm coming from, to get straight to the point, starting with chapter 20, right? Holy instructions and warnings for all young men. I'm going to read from it here. I have a copy. However, you're going to like this. Many brothers and sisters probably don't even know that this exists in more science literature. Probably don't even know that this is in here because they've just heard of this, or most people probably just heard of 101s for children. Or if you visited a more science temple, you seen that, and at least online, a lot of this isn't gotten into. Chapter 20 is holy instructions and warnings for all young men, like I said, and it's from the Wadrali. So I'm gonna get straight into it. This is very important in today's day and time, especially in being anti what? Male concubinage. Again, death of the black male concubine is what I'm on. We here to what? Kill the black male concubine who's out here whoremongering, who's out here creating work husbands, out here creating baby mamas everywhere, and out here okaying, right? Women being promiscuous, out here promoting women having a side dude, out here promoting polyandry and this whole free spirited movement that's you know, cultivating our women, which is going to cultivate their children, and the next generation consequently will be even more lost when it comes to the family unit and how to solidify, right? And have what? Concrete and compact a foundation for your family to stand on, right? So holy instructions and warnings for all young men. And it's noted like in bullets, numbers 1 to 10, but I'm gonna read it straight through. And I'm gonna build on it time to time. So it starts with beware, young man, beware of all the allurements of wantonness, and let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. So again, he said, beware of all the allurements of wantonness, right? So the extra flirtatious attention she's seeking, right? um, the lustful characteristics that are at the door. You understand, and the lustful allurements, right, that are at the door. That's what you got to beware of. He said, "Beware, young man, beware." From the beginning of the allurements of wantonness, and let not the harlot, right? He's talking about this same woman of wantonness, that harlot, what we call a prostitute, right? Hoes, 304 is what they call them. What? Let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. Again, her delights. So if her time is spent in what? Or in excess, right? And her delights in attracting men through her sexual pleasures, right? And promiscuous activities in order to advance herself in life, you know. If you're seeking a family that I want, that's not the type of woman that you want to attract. So he goes on to say, the madness of desire, this is what's going to happen. He goes to say, the madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits. From the blindness of its rage, thou shalt rush upon destruction. So you don't even realize, right? The the rage. You don't even realize, right? The rage that is consequent of you not doing the knowledge, of you being blind to who she really is. You did what? You was allured by her wantonness, and you what? Participated in the excess of her delights. Therefore, that desire that you fell into, what is going to defeat its own pursuits. that pursuit of happiness that you are dealing with and dealing with this woman is going to defeat itself right on the way there. So as simple as that. From the blindness of its rage, right? From the blindness of the destructive quality of you even dealing with a woman like that, thou shalt rush upon destruction. You gonna be on what? Whole bunch of child support or not. Whole bunch of baby mamas running around or disagreeable what women and children. Now you got children that you half raised, quarter raised, third way raised, not raised at all. You got children that because these women want to excess in their delights, they're willing to just up and leave and go where the fuck ever with a friend, with a new plan, or with a new what man, because you what rushed upon that destruction by what the allurements of her wantonness. He goes on to say, therefore, give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. Right? So your heart, right? The things that you feel for most, the things that you are attached to per se. Don't give that up to again her delights, those desires, her what sweet enticements. We know what sweet enticements are. We gonna get into this, but I've been telling brothers in the death of the concubine, get off of social media if you're not on it for what networking and business. Get off of social media if you're not on it to promote yourself for economic reasons, to promote yourself for what community development and things of that nature. Because if you're on there just looking at women, you're what being what a lord of you're what beware of the allurements of the of wantonness, like he's saying. You're not being aware of that. You're not being aware of that. So I tell brothers, just get off of it altogether if you don't really need it looking at women on there all day. Cause what? You're giving your heart to her sweet enticements. Neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. Catfish, right? Those enchanting delusions, 9 times out of 10, she got makeup on, pounds of it, plus fake hair, plus uh filter on the picture, plus just the fact that it's a picture is already enhanced. And what? Delusional by certain curves, angles, certain way you take the shot. Brother, you better act like you know. So neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. She may appear like a what? Homemaker, what we call MGTGCC. That may what? Appear so online. How in reality, she don't even really know how to deal with children and is not trying to learn. And as if she didn't have the example when she was raised by, she's not trying to go amongst women, older women to learn, right? Or she's not going into what? Private or self study, which is the best study, an internal study, in order to see what she's missing to be able to raise her child to the best of her ability, to be able to take care of her what? Man, to the best of her ability. She's dealing with those enchanting delusions. She may seem online pretty, right? Got things going for herself, but in reality, no family. Think of this, brothers. A woman, especially, I'll be nice because we done been through a lot. So I'll say these 30s and up, no family, this, that, and the third. You have to look and say, is she dealing with what? Enchanting delusions? Why does she think she even needs a man? Why does she even feel that she wants a man? Why is she even talking to me? This must be some type of enchanting delusion. Because she ain't get her shit together in all this time, and there's plenty of men that want her. Again, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. Enchanting, you know what enchantment is? We call it cultivation, sorcery, magic, right? Be not what? Neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions, because it's hypnotic. It is what it is. You see how the music is, you see how the entertainment industry is, and the enchanting delusions in the women in that industry, and why it encourages brothers to go that route because they what? Equate success with enchanting delusions of women. Y'all go get it, right? Again, chapter 20, holy instructions and warnings for all young men. Noah Drew Ali. The fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every single spring of joy shall be exhausted. Again, the fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. In the prime of thy life, old age shall overtake thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. Now, that's not saying your woman's not going to be pretty the rest of her life. That's not saying that she's not going to have a body the rest of her life. You know how many women we see in their 50s and 60s, right? With the modern health craze and the modern workout craze, looking good, looking like they in their 30s and their 50s, especially through what? Proper nutrition, sunlight, oxygen, being anti-stress, not having a whole bunch of men in your life, especially because that's the one thing that'll stress you out, going through multiple partners. So the fountain of thy health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, right? This pleasure that's coming from those enchanting delusions, this pleasure that's coming from what? Those delights that we see in them, in the sisters, right? that that fountain of health which supplies that stream of pleasure shall quickly be dried up. He said, in the prime of thy old life, old age shall overtake me. Now, my point in not saying that doesn't mean she not gonna look good. When he say over old age shall overtake thee, that means that you're no longer to be able to what? Deal with the primary function of the family unit, which is reproduction. So if you don't put this over those enchanting delights in your young age, by the time you get to an older woman and want to fix it all of a sudden, you're not going to be of the same value to what? A man who's trying to build a family or a man who's in the stages of still reproducing. It just is what it is. He just put it in the words of saying what? In the prime of thy life, old age shall overtake thee. In the prime of thy life, when you're that wise woman, that silvery moon, when you're reflecting what? The consciousness of decades of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The prime of thy life, right? When you're coming into the age of a good example to younger sisters and daughters and coming into granddaughters, right? Old age shall overtake thee. Now we understand we're older than the sun, moon, and stars, and we have no physical birth record. We know and understand that what? Infinity is our nature, and constant creation is our nature, right? However, in this physical what? Body, old age shall overtake thee, meaning there will come a time when what? The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. So you're not going to be able to reproduce anymore. We know this, you know. But when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, right? That enchantment I talk about is the same as a charm. But when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power it is vain to resist. So when what? That Proverbs woman, that virtuous woman, that modest woman, right? When virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, when she has that strong moral compass, right? When virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power it is vain to resist. So when you already got a bad woman, when she's already gorgeous, when she's already pretty, right? The luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than stars when she has that what? Modesty and virtue, when she's that virtuous woman. The whiteness of her bosom transcendeth the lily. Her smile is more delicious than a garden of roses. So the whiteness, right? He's talking about the purity of her bosom, the purity of her heart, the soundness of herself, what internally transcendeth, right? It advanced, it's greater than what? The lily, which we know is pure and beautiful, right? Her smile is more delicious than a garden of roses. The innocence of her eyes is like that of the turtle. Simplicity and truth dwell in her heart. So again, the simplicity and truth that dwelt in her heart, that's what makes that whiteness of her bosom. The innocence of her eyes is like that of a turtle, he said. So we're talking we actually have a turtle. So the if you ever just seen a turtle, in a nature walk, along the stream or along the rivers, lakes and stuff like that, if you have them wherever you're at, it's an automatic response of what? Calm. When you just see how the pace they move at, the flow that they swim at and eat at, right? The way they avoid danger and altercation, right? The innocence of her eyes like that of a turtle, simplicity and truth dwell in her heart. The kisses of her mouth are sweeter than honey. The perfumes of Arabia breathe from her lips. Shut not thy bosom. So don't shut off your heart, right? Shut not thy bosom to the tenderness of love. The purity of its flame shall ennoble thy heart and soften it to receive the fairest impressions. Again, so that true woman, right? That virtuous and modest woman, right? Don't shut your bosom to her, right? To the tenderness of her, right? Because that purity, that fire, right? That you need to extinguish, right? Some of the impurities in self, that fire that you need to what? Go through for the process of self purification that includes your environment, which includes your woman, right? She's gonna be a what? Aid to that. She what shall ennoble thy heart and soften it to receive the fairest impressions. That's not just from her, that's from all over. Because when your heart is open through excuse me, when your heart is open through experience with woman, which is your what? Your thing on this planet, huh? What happens is you're open to more impressions in life. So when you have experience with family and raising children, you advance as a conscious being, period. So impressions of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, right? The knowing without what? Knowing, as they say, right there. That's that. The fairest impressions that you'll be able to receive by the opening of the heart. So we moving on, right? 21, marriage instructions for man and wife from the noble prophet. I'm gonna pretty much read straight through this because it's straight to the point. Um, I was gonna skip this one, and go straight to 22, duty of a husband, because I'm talking to the brothers. But this is dope right here. So he says, "Give ear, fair daughter of love, to the instructions of prudence, and let the precepts of truth sink deep in thy heart. So shall the charms of thy mind add luster to the elegance of thy form and thy beauty. Like the rose that resembleth shall retain its sweetness when its bloom is withered." Again, that woman with that great moral compass, that woman who what? Retains her beauty, that beauty in that body at 50 something will mean way even more, right? Will mean way even more. What do you say? That there you go. So the charms of thy mind add luster to the elegance of thy form. How many times was a woman just all right? Or how many times is a woman just decent looking to you? But once like you learn that she was an all right person, right? Once you learn that she was a decent person, right? And you felt the vibe as a pure human being from them, they got a little prettier. Same with the other way around with men. How many times is a man you be like, how he with her? But it's the charms of his mind that makes his what? Form greater than it is to the average person. It's the same the other way around, right? It's the charms of thy mind that add luster and elegance to thy form. Two, in the spring of thy youth, in the morning of thy days, when the eyes of men gaze on thee with delight. Again, marriage instructions for man and wife. In the spring of thy youth, in the morning of thy days, when the eyes of men gaze on thee with delight, and nature whispereth in thine ear the meaning of their looks. Ah, hear with caution their seducing words, guard well thy heart, nor listen to their soft persuasions. Remember, thou art made man's reasonable companion, not the slave of his passion. The end of thy being is not merely to gratify his loose desire, but to assist him in the toils of life, to soothe his heart with thy tenderness, and recompense his care with soft endearments. That's like what I was saying before, how a woman can help open you up to life, period, because of your experience, because of the bond, because of the connection with her, right? Because of the piece of her that you are. You understand? Those impressions, those fair impressions that opening your heart to a good woman could what? Raise you in consciousness. He said, what? Remember, thou art made man's reasonable companion, not the slave of his passion. So you're not to attract a man, right? just through looking good. Of course, you got to look good to attract a man. That's common sense. I love good looking women. So, of course, you have to look good to attract a man. But the point is to not what be the slave of his passion. So you're not what relying on. There's a lot of women, right, that I've dealt with that try to attract me or have attracted me, right, physically, and then that's all they ever use to try to attract me. It's just constant physical, physical, physical. I look like this. I look like this. I look like this. Okay, I'm not into the allurements of wantonness. Who is she that winneth the heart of man, that subdueth him to love, and reigneth in his breast, right? In his heart. Lo, yonder she walketh in maiden sweetness, with innocence in her mind, and modesty on her cheek. Her hand seeketh employment, her foot delighteth not in gating abroad, or gadding abroad, right? So again, with the seeketh employment, her foot seeking employment. She not lazy. She doing what she's supposed to do around the house. She doing what she's supposed to be doing in your particular community with the other women, keeping in contact with them, keeping in some type of communication with all the children. I'm just speaking personal. It says her hand seeketh employment. That it talked about before when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, that virtuous woman, that Proverbs woman. Go look into the Proverbs woman. Pretty sure it's 31. Her hand seeketh employment, her foot delighteth not in gating abroad. She is clothed with neatness. She is fed with temperance. Humility and meekness are as a crown of glory circling her head. So it's not just about the what? Head wrap. She is literally clothed with neatness. She is fed with temperance, humility, and meekness are as a crown of glory circling her head. On her tongue dwelleth music. The sweetness of honey floweth from her lips. Decency is in all her words, and her answers are mildness and truth. Right? So she ain't always spicy, right? And her answers are mildness and truth. We know how the sisters get, right? So on her tongue dwelleth music. We know and understand music is supposed to be what? Pleasurable. It's supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to give you a blissful internal feeling. He goes on to say, 9. Submission and obedience are the lessons of her life, and peace and happiness are her reward. That submission word women hate, right? Or at least today's women hate. Submission and obedience are the lessons of her life. The same way a man has to learn how to what? Rule the terrain. How a man has to understand and learn, which is reflected and is obvious, right? In his physical nature, just like hers. But what needs to be done so the men aren't brutes and so the men aren't relying on pure strength and what? Physical physical authority, you know what I'm saying, to advance in life. It's the charm of his mind, right? And when he learns to have the tools of the mind and use the tools of the mind to lead the physical, when he learns that energy, right, follows thought, and when he can use the tools of the mind, right, and he can use consciously manipulate the physical around him, right, and know that that's what secondary. That's when the physical will mean that much more. That's when you add life and spirit and breath to the physical by adding what? The charms of your mind and putting that first and foremost. So it's the same with her. She got to be clothed in neatness and neatness. Her tongue has to dwell in music. And when it comes to submission and obedience being the lessons of her life, again, we could take it to the foundation of the family unit, pregnancy. Submission in woman to man is very obvious to me just in the pregnancy and the fact that there's a reproductive act, right? Where egg, right? A seed comes together, just to, put it in plain terms. And she's pregnant now, right? And her body and her mind and her emotions automatically go into a state of submission, right? Meaning sheltering, right? Meaning secure, closed off, right? She goes into a state where she's vulnerable And at the capacity of her pregnancy, at least if she wants to be in the best of health, she has to rely on who should be naturally her partner in life, her man, her husband, to provide, to secure her, right? If there were to be attack or sickness in this pregnancy. I don't got to go deep into it. A lot of people act like they don't get it, but it's obvious to me how a woman's what submission and obedience are the lessons of her life. I broke this down in videos before how submission is an intelligent choice. So obedience, right, to your man, this means you agree with his plan because a marriage is a union between two. It's a contract between the two. So you have to have the same foundation in order for things to work. So if his plan is for you to lead X, Y, and Z or for him to lead X, Y, and Z, you can't secure nothing you can't control. Again, you can't secure anything you can't control. So if a woman is expected to be secure by a man, right? Then there has to be a level of control that man has over her life. It's just simple and plain, right? So before her steps walketh prudence, and virtue attendeth at her right hand. Her eye speaketh softness and love, but discretion with a scepter sitteth on her brow. Again, so she doing the knowledge. She ain't no dummy. She paying attention. That's what discretion, wisdom. The tongue of the sensuous is dumb in her presence. The awe of her virtue keepeth him silent. When scandal is busy, and the fame of her neighbors is tossed from tongue to tongue, if charity and good nature, going on with the sound. Okay, I should be back. Says, when scandal is busy, and the fame of her neighbors is tossed from tongue to tongue, if charity and good nature open not her mouth, the finger of silence rests on her lip. So she's not gossiping, slandering, talking about people, right? Her breast is the mansion of goodness, and therefore she suspecteth no evil of others. Happy were the man that should make her his wife. Happy the child that should call her mother. She presideth in the house, and there is peace. She commandeth with judgment and is obeyed. So it's not just about obedience, right? Through her being wise, having discretion, through her not being what? Caught up in gossip, right? And slander, through in her breast being the mansion of goodness, right? Purity in her heart. It says that what? She commanded with judgment, therefore she is obeyed. She ariseth in the morning, she considers her affairs, and appointeth to every one their proper business. That's the part of being obeyed. She running the household. She get up. Listen, y'all supposed to be doing this. Y'all supposed to be doing this. Babe, can you do this for me? Right? Because she commanded with judgment. She needs you to do something for her. If she's the woman who you should have, then it's through her judgment you should trust that X, Y, and Z, whether it be a bill, whether it be investing in something, whether it be talking to the children about something, that what is obeyed. She ariseth in the morning. She considers her affairs and appointeth to every one their proper business. That's important, especially with a family like mine, homeschooling, got several children, public school, daycare age, all that. Never been to none of it. So she has to what? Be able to what? Appointed everyone to their proper business, proper lessons, proper hygiene. You understand? Proper nutrition, exercise, all that. All these things have to be done during the day, especially in order with or in what? Um, solidarity with what the husband's doing, whether he's in the home or out the home working, or whatever his economic situation is. So it says that what? Going deeper into what I'm saying. The care of her family is her whole delight. To that alone she applieth her study, and elegance with frugality is seen in her mansion. Again, that alone she applieth her study to the care of her family, like how all our teachers family structure. right? And how the family unit is the foundation to this whole earth thing, period, right? That's what she dedicated her study to. She, right? The prudence of her management, right, is an honor to her husband. He heareth her praise with a secret delight. And men always know what's going on. We always doing it now. We walk in the house, whether you feel the vibe or you see within the actions of the children how the day was and what's going on. Especially if you've been with a woman and you had children more than a couple years, more than a few years, you start to see repetitiveness. You start to see what certain responses and certain triggers that are common within your environment and your home, right? You start to see where is it? The prudence of her management, right? And you'll be honored or dishonored by it, and you see how you gotta what make adjustments. But in this case, we talking about that virtuous woman. He heareth her praise with secret delight. She informeth the minds of her children with wisdom, teaching them, right? The woman being the first teacher. She fashioneth their manners from the examples of her own goodness. So again, you're gonna see in your children through how she act, the manners, because they're always the sun and moon have attracting powers on our planet, right? However, while the children are young, that woman, that moon, right, she's gonna have a lot of influence on them while they're growing and developing, especially a couple years or a year to two, or however you do, of breastfeeding. All that information and emotion and magnetic going directly to them. Her being primarily with them in the house, changing them, feeding them, dealing with them, like that management that's talked about, that's going to be expressed, right? Or she fashioneth their manners from the examples of her own goodness. Children watch what you do. They don't do what you say, they watch what you do. So how you respond, they respond. How you act, they act. They deal with off what? Ritual. The words of her mouth is the law of her youth. The motion of her eye commandeth their obedience. She speaketh, and the servants fly. She pointeth, and the thing is done. For the law of love is in their hearts, and her kindness addeth wings to their feet. In prosperity, she is not puffed up. In adversity, she healeth the wounds of fortune with patience. The troubles of her husband are alleviated by her counsels and sweetened by her endearments. She putteth his heart in her bosom and receiveth comfort. Happy is the man that has made her wife, her his wife. Happy the child that called her his mother. That was like, I threw that in as a bonus, marriage and instructions for man and wife from the prophet, or from the noble prophet, because it was um it was in the middle of the two chapters I wanted to focus on, because I always focus on the brothers. A lot of niggas get on here and talk about women all day, and it has its value and its points. However, that's not my thing, right? So, duty of a husband, and we gonna wrap it up, right? Chapter 22, duty of a husband. Again, to the brothers, take unto thyself a wife and obey the ordinance of Allah. Take unto thyself a wife and become a faithful member of society. Again, how faithful of a member of society are you? How much of a member of society are you without a woman and children, without a family? I was always taught what? You can't go to war with a man that ain't got nothing to lose. Because when there's selfishness involved, right? When your family is not from the same land, country, culture, people, when he ain't got nothing to go back to, it's a lot of shit that could come with that. He ain't got no children that'll reap the justice of his decisions. No woman that'll what? Reap the justice of his decisions. Hey, how good of a member of society can he be? He's not even adding or giving to society, right? Society, group of men for one common cause, as simple as that. So if the one common cause is the family unit and nation building, right? How are you adding to that if you're just getting older and older and no babies? It just is what it is. So the duty of a husband, right? A caretaker, right? A provider, is to take unto thyself a wife and obey the ordinance of a law. Take unto thyself a wife and become a faithful member of society. But examine with care and fix not suddenly. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. This is one of my favorite lines that ever came out of this. And it's the reason, or one of the reasons I am where I am today. And it's, listen, it's a good piece of wisdom that came out of all this. This is just one of the things that stood out to me where he said, but examine with care and fix not suddenly. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. So if you are dealing with a young lady, courting a young lady, check out courting, right? And dating and polygyny. I got a video on that. Um, just check out my whole polygyny playlist. You go to my playlist, I have a playlist on polygyny that's there. And in courting and dating, you'll see, right? If you're courting a woman, on that present choice depends that future happiness. As simple as that. If you have a woman that you know in 10, 20 years, it's going to annoy you too much. In 10, 20 years, when I say it, whatever particular thing it is, in 10, 20 years, this is going to cause a divorce. This is what? Liability. If you focus on liabilities and you understand the pros and cons of things, and you're not just what? Focus on the excess of her delights, then you'll know and understand. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. Know what you want as a 40-year-old, 50-year-old man, as a what? A dying older man. Is that future? Now we know anything can happen and people change. However, that future happiness depends on the stability and the state of mind, right, of this present choice with this woman. He goes on. And if much of her time is destroyed in dress and adornment, if she is enamored with her own beauty and delighteth with her own praise, if she laugheth much and talketh loud, if her foot abideth not in her father's house, and her eyes with boldness rove on the faces of men, though her beauty were as the sun in the firmament of heaven, turn thy face from her charms. Again, these charms, that juju, it'll get you, boy. Turn thy feet from her paths, and suffer not thy soul to be ensnared by the allurements of imagination. I got to go through that one again. And this is almost done. If much of her time is destroyed in dress, I compare this in our dating time and relevance to the brothers today with social media. Especially with the the short video ones, TikTok, Snap, IG stories. All they doing is looking at how sexy face they can make. All they doing is seeing if they can get the right curvature for the photo and the video, just to put it on for whoever is on their list to see. Because I can guarantee you, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be posted depending on who was on the list. Let's just be real, brothers. He said much of her time is destroyed, right? Not saying she shouldn't dress good and what? Have adornments. If it's destroyed in dress and adornment, if she's enamored with her own beauty and delighted with her own praise, like, heart eyes, emoji, right? And delighted with her own praise, if she laugheth much and talketh loud, right? Again, I'm relating this to social media in this particular scenario, so it's relevant. The same with the the share. Always what? Looking at the wrong shit online, and it's what? Destroyed in dress and adornment. So the same destroyed and what? Laughing much and talking loud. That's all she got to do. Every time you look around, or every time you studying her, or every time you what? Hear about her, every time with her friends, every time not with her friends. You talk to your boy, you talk to your mans, right? And it's the same thing with his woman, right? It's the same thing with the woman that he know in his family. It's a problem in our community. And these are the things that you don't need to get caught up in, regardless of how bad she is. Because what? On that present choice depends thy future happiness. So he goes on. If her foot abideth not in her father's house, another thing, we know most of us was not raised in our father's homes. So if she doesn't have a father like figure, or if she doesn't have a moral compass, right? A moral compass that is in the place of a father like figure, along with men to at least in the broader community, at least, or in her community, at least, vet, right? And speak for, right? you you're gonna have trouble. You're gonna have a problem if there's no man to what? speak up for you. So it says what? If her foot abideth not in her father's house, most of the time she don't even know how to be a wife anyway. She don't even know how to be a mother anyway, because she's never seen that man to woman relation, right, in a pure way. Because why? What other, in our time and the relevance of today, there's only a couple reasons why her foot wouldn't be in her father's house, right? And her eyes with boldness rove the faces of men. That's why I don't do platonic relationships. Because that's a woman eyes with boldness rolling around along the faces of men. As simple as that. Whole bunch of dudes on social media. She always liking and communicating all these different dudes up in her comments and oh, thank you, 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 thank you. Smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, heart, heart, heart back. You know, that's equivalent today when her eyes with boldness roll the faces of men. All she doing is scrolling down the timeline the same way I tell brothers get off social media because all you doing is scrolling down looking at women. What you think she doing? And 9 times out of 10 nowadays they're looking at men and women. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. Boldness rolls along the faces of men. This is why I don't do platonic relationships with women. And this is why I don't have a wife or wives or any type of consort or woman I'm dealing with that's not on that type of level with me. And this is why I don't go into any type of agreement or marriage with a woman who deals with platonic relationships with men. It's simple as that. Because if it's not business, if it's not a communication that's relevant and beneficial to the family unit, if it's not a communication that could advance you directly, right? Not in the excess of your delights, not in you laughing and talking loud, right? Not in what things that don't directly connect with virtue and you running your home and management and employment, right? But the boldness roving on the faces of men, those platonic relationships you have that are existent just as backups and just as black feminist what sentiment, which is really white feminist sentiment, because we've never had the problem in our home that white women have with white women. Black women just make it up when they say, and just pull it out of thin air when they say, "Oh, black men's oppressing the black woman in the home." The black man ain't even in the black woman's home. I was thinking earlier. You can name every block that's talked about in rap music. Name every hood that's talked about in black rap music, from Atlanta to New York to Chicago to the Bay Area. All these hoods, right, are mostly filled single mothers, old ass people, and very young people who just happen to be able to afford to live there, and they don't even know what they're doing with their children. Saying that to say, all the platonic relationships that you got is with dudes like this and with people like this, right? Saying that to say that the foot not abiding in the father's house, right? That talking loud, that laughing much, right? The eyes with boldness roving on the faces of men. That's all within the realm of the conditions we live in. So we got to change those conditions. Or you have to be able to be in the world and not what of it. You have to have the intelligence and the what command to be able to be with who these women, right? Or this woman, and be able to what? Have her dwelleth in purity and virtue, as opposed to these platonic relationships with men that in the name of her free spirit, you know what I'm saying? That in the name of these black feminist sentiments that come from these blocks named in rap music, because the people who most likely identify down the line, not the bourgeois, right, class of these women who are like the more so-called highly educated university women, right, with these high-paying jobs and stuff that are pushing down, right, these ideas, the Oprahs, right, that are pushing down these ideas to our women in the hood. But the women in the hood, those are the ones that suffer because they're taught Oh no, I could just talk to any man I want. I could do this with any man I want, and it never works for them. So now we have a whole bunch of women, right? That just choose from friend to friend. They be with this dude that was a friend, then they go to this dude that was a friend, then they go to this dude they met, then they go to this dude they met, then they go back to that one. And at the same time, they keep them all as associates and friends or platonic relationships, right? And it creates dysfunction in the family. It creates the baby mama thing. We always blame the baby mama thing on men. When men is always gonna, no matter the conditions of society, no matter the politics of society, men is gonna sleep with multiple women. Men is gonna sleep with as many women as he feels comfortable or secure doing. It just is what it is. You understand? So when we're in a time when women try and reflect that just in the name of I can be equal, or just in the name of you're not gonna oppress me, like I said, they're making this up. My point about the blocks in Chicago, the blocks in Atlanta. These places are single households. Where are the men oppressing these women? Where are the black men and black fathers that are oppressing all these black households? Where are the black men that these black women need to be liberated from? Because I don't see them and never knew them. Now, of course, there's cheaters and liars and shit like that, but this whole false notion of this black patriarchy that's just destroyed the black family, and this black patriarchy that hasn't allowed women to be them true sexual selves, and has, the male chauvinistic right sentiment that has made women inferior, and the religion that's made women inferior. Stop it. That shit do not exist in the black family at all. Cause most of y'all that talk that don't even got no daddy or no granddaddy or no great granddaddy. So we talking generations of dysfunction, and the oppression that white men give white women just because you need a mammy, a master, or a mistress in this case to identify with. Just because you need because you want to identify with the white woman image of freedom and independence, what you do is put on your black man, right? Or your potential husband. What you do is put on him the limitations that a white woman is trying to give the white man because she feels some type of way about their history. Has nothing to do with you, black woman. We're almost done here. But again, black woman, the single households, the single mothers that most of you are that have this sentiment, the single women with no children in your 30s and 40s with this sentiment, the hood moms that are online on fucking Facebook and everywhere else and YouTube getting onto all this feminist stuff. And you read, or you should read, The Black Man's Guide to Understand the Black Woman. Her talking about that secret cult of black women that got this idea from white women to treat their man a certain way, to cut him out through what? Um, being what's the word I'm looking for, by perverting, right, submission into being sneaky, perverting submission into what, using your man and getting what you want out of any man around you. It's taught from a young age. Just give him this to get that. Just give him some sex to get this and that, right? So her eyes with boldness rove on the faces of men, because in today's day and time they feel they can do whatever. Oh, he's just this, he's just that, because this feminist sentiment has poured into them and had them think that, oh, it has nothing to do with me, or it has nothing to do with me, and why men are all up on me. It has nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Why my friends want to have sex with me? It has nothing to do with me. That's the patriarchy that was put inside you. You shouldn't want to control a woman. Being able to secure her, being able to provide everything for her, being able to give her sexual pleasure has nothing to do with having to have any degree of control over the relationship. We're equals in the relationship. We're both the heads. You're not over me, because this feminine sentiment has poured down to them that black men have somehow oppressed them. So now they have to seek liberation from the oppression of the black man. Ain't that some shit? So the boldness, right? that raves her across the faces of men. Her just wanting to be in every dude's face, the whole culture. More and more women are becoming polyamorous. More and more women are seeking thruples. More and more women are getting control in the relationship by being able to just do whatever the fuck they want, by being able to talk with and deal with whoever they want. They're being poisoned by the ideas of many men because these men are what? Male concubines. Again, I blame the men. The black male and I know I went into a rant. I'm about to end. The black male concubine, right? What he has done is cause women to think that, oh, because there's men out there that'll do whatever, it's okay. Because I got these five guys that see it's okay to be my friend, right? And I have these five guys who see it's okay to engage in communication that's non-beneficial and it's just consists in the realm of what? The talk is loud and the laugh is loud and the engaging of things in delight and excess. As long as you're dealing with this type of woman, brothers, you're not going to raise the right family. It's just simple as that. And so I'm not going to rant about it. I was about to go even more, but my point is made. My point is made. Though her beauty, whereas the sun in the firmament of heaven, turn thy face from her charms. Leave her alone. Turn thy feet from her paths, and suffer not thy soul to be ensnared by the allurements of imagination. Again, imagination is just all made up. This shit that the relationship should be like this, that, and the third because of her imagination. You shouldn't be the head of the house because of her imagination that black men are out here oppressing black women. Right. But when thou findest sensibility of heart joined with softness of manners, again, the good ones that's out there, which are plenty, they just in the cut. They not all online showing their bodies. They not all on the apps trying to get with men. They not responding to DMs. You understand? But when thou findest sensibility, right, common sense of heart, joined with softness of manners, and accompany an accomplished mind, with a form agreeable to thy fancy, take her home to thy house. She is worthy to be thy friend, thy companion in life, the wife of thy bosom. O cherish her as a blessing sent to thee from heaven. Let the kindness of thy behavior endear thee to her heart. She is the mistress of thy house. Treat her therefore with respect, that thy servants may obey her. Oppose not her inclination with cause. She is the partner of thy cares. Make her also the companion of thy pleasures. Reprove her faults with gentleness. Exact not her obedience with rigor. I say, teach, right? Reprove not her faults with gentleness. Reprove her faults with gentleness. Exact not her obedience with rigor. So teach. Not the same exact way you would a man, right? However, you still have to what? Teach. As simple as that. When he's saying reprove her faults with gentleness, he's saying what? Trying to be an asshole all the time. I could be an asshole. You understand? However, you have to understand what? You have to know and understand. Oppose not her inclination without cause, right? So it is what it is. Sometimes in today's day and time, if it don't apply, let it fly. However, I understand what he meant. Trust thy secrets in her breast. Her counsels are sincere. Thou shalt not be deceived. So if you have a woman that has that moral compass I'm talking about, right? Then you'll be able to tell her certain things and then trust in her certain things. And she's not gonna go tell this cousin, that cousin, that cousin, that mama, that best friend, and then all of them tell they man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, trust thy secrets in her breast. Her counsels are sincere. So how she gonna respond, even though it may not always be the right thing at all. The counsel of it is still sincere because of what? Her being that companion. Thou shalt not be deceived. She's not out to deceive you. Disagreement doesn't mean deceit. Again, disagreement doesn't mean deceit. Be faithful to her bed, for she is mother of thy children. Stop the male concubinage. I tell brothers, do what you want. However, I counsel, don't sleep with no woman that ain't yours. Again, do what you want. I'm firm in the nature of man. And I know the more polygynous the West becomes, the more you'll see the nature of man and why men basically have the baby mama thing going on, because it's just always been the design of man to produce in mass, at least have that innate feeling to. So yeah, be faithful to her bed. That just means don't be that black male concubine. Y'all have an agreement. Y'all have a way that y'all go about things, right? She trusts you, you trust her, you love each other, right? To be faithful to her bed means that to not be deceitful to her, to not what? Lie to her, to not have her playing what? Boo boo the fool. When pain and sickness assault her, let thy tenderness soothe her affliction. A look from thee of pity and love shall alleviate her grief, or instigate her pain and be of more avail than 10 physicians. We say, in what makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes, that all the above is caused by the Son of Man. Again, for those who understand, all the above is caused by the Son of Man. So a look from thee of pity and love shall alleviate her grief, or instigate her pain, and be of more avail than 10 physicians. Consider the tenderness of her sex, the delicacy of her frame, and be not severe to her weakness, but remember thine own imperfections. That's the last one. Again, consider the tenderness of her sex, the delicacy of her frame. Consider it, right? Meaning keep in mind, due to what? Knowledge, right? To the delicacy of her frame. Because you have to know and understand the frame mentally, physically, spiritually, meaning her makeup, her design, right? Consider the delicacy of it and the nature of what women in emotions. That's the delicacy of the frame he talks about. Because when we're talking about the frame, we're talking about the physiology, right? The A and P. And when we're talking about the A and P, we're talking about the chemical responses. That's the delicacy of her frame, which is the emotional responses. And be not severe to her weakness, meaning, again, the emotional nature of women, be not severe to that weakness in her, but remember thine own imperfections. So the weakness or the aspects of the lower self as man, as husband, when you remind yourself of that, that's when the severity of your response to her imperfections will lower down, because you're like, you know what? Well, I just do this as a man, and all the above is caused by the Son of Man anyway. So peace. I want to give you all that, right? The Holy Quran, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, my man Noble Draw Ali. His degree day just passed. Shout out to him and my wife. Her degree day was the same day. That's a good day, January 8th. Build or destroy. So peace to the family. Again, what holy instructions and warnings for y'all young men, marriage instructions for men and wife from the noble prophet, and duty of a husband. I know I went on a rant, right? Because I'm anti male concubinage. I went on a rant because I'm anti platonic relationships for women. We need to buckle down, get our shit together. And if the communication with men isn't beneficial, right, then leave it alone, young ladies, because it hasn't proven anything of benefit in our history. And it's just getting worse on social media. And all that's coming out of it is the excess of your delight. Now, if you want to be a young lady, right? If you want to be a young man who just wants to be promiscuous and do whatever, I ain't religious. Do you? Hey, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm righteous, right? Not religious. So the science is, if you want a healthy, strong, and productive black family, if you want the new black family that's going to raise this black national consciousness, right? And that's going to elevate that into a black world consciousness, right? Where we can not be seen for the gangsterism produced in the black exploitation films. However, we will be recognized. How when you see a Jew, you think what? Bread. You see a white man, you think what? Oppressor. You don't want to think what? Laziness and gangsterism and slave when you see a black man. You want to think the strongest example of a family on the planet. Again, my goal in anti-male concubinage, right? And in part of that, with teaching sisters not to have these loose platonic relationships with men. And if you're going to have men outside of your husband in your communication, Mainly, if we get the family together, I'll be your cousins and brothers and uncles. But that's a whole nother story. Keep it professional. We're in a time where if you don't change, you die. So I understand women, right? They have other positions in life now where they have to communicate with other men, especially entrepreneurially, especially scholastically. There was a time women didn't really get educated or make money, right? Couldn't even hop in a car damn near in some countries. So in this age, right, of equality, we have to know and understand that there's still levels to this shit. And in order to maintain that traditional family that has been through the test of time, be judgmental, right? And have discretion and wisdom in your relationships with men. Peace.